There's a point where words stop working. You can talk, explain, justify, even plead, but the more you do, the more it dilutes your power. Silence, on the other hand, is undeniable. It creates a space where the other person is forced to feel the weight of your absence. In that silence, they don't just hear nothing. They hear everything they've been ignoring. Silence shows strength in a way words never can. It communicates that you don't need to be understood to validate your worth. You're no longer negotiating for attention or begging to be chosen. The silence says, I'm already chosen. By me. That quiet, unshaken energy has the power to shift dynamics faster than 1,000 explanations ever could. When you remove your voice, you remove the comfort they had in always knowing your thoughts and feelings. That absence becomes deafening. It's in the silence that people begin to notice what they once took for granted. What was familiar suddenly feels scarce, and scarcity makes everything more valuable. By holding back explanations, you create a mirror. And in that mirror, they're left to confront their own actions, their own mistakes, and the reality of what life feels like without your energy feeding into theirs. That's when the silence becomes louder than any words you could have ever spoken. Absence has a strange way of magnifying impact. When you're constantly available, your presence can blend into the background, becoming part of the noise. But when you step back, when you deliberately create space, your value suddenly becomes sharper, clearer, more undeniable. The absence creates contrast, and it's in that contrast that people realize the depth of what you brought into their world. True presence doesn't always come from being physically there. It comes from the energy you leave behind. When you step away with strength and composure, your absence begins to echo in their mind. They replay conversations, they notice the silence, they sense the shift. That absence lingers like a shadow that's impossible to ignore. Every time you withhold constant access, you allow curiosity and intrigue to grow. People are wired to chase what isn't easily available, to want more of what feels scarce. Your absence creates the very space needed for someone to start leaning in, to start craving the presence they once overlooked. Absence becomes presence when it forces others to fill in the blanks. The unanswered questions, the missing energy, the empty space. These become louder than anything you could say or do. It's in that space that your presence, though invisible, becomes the most powerful thing in the room. When you've poured so much of your energy into someone else, it's easy to forget that the real stage was always yours. You make them the center of attention, analyzing their every move, worrying about their every word. That constant spotlight blinds you to your own power. The moment you take that light and turn it back onto yourself, everything changes. You start to see that the focus you gave away was the very thing that made you feel small. Shifting the spotlight doesn't mean ignoring others. It means prioritizing you. It's about asking, what do I need right now? What lights me up? What challenges me, excites me, makes me feel alive? When you redirect your attention to your own growth, you naturally begin to radiate differently. You're no longer a supporting role in someone else's story. You reclaim the lead in your own. Every ounce of energy you once spent waiting, overthinking, or trying to decode their behavior can now be invested back into building your life. Learn something new. Strengthen your body. Elevate your career. Surround yourself with people who add fire to your world instead of draining it. The more you shift inward, the more undeniable your presence becomes. Here's the irony: the less you focus on them, the more they start to notice you. When the spotlight is no longer on them, they're left in the shadows, wondering why the attention feels so different, why the energy doesn't orbit them anymore. That gap sparks curiosity, and curiosity is powerful. The truth is, people are drawn to those who are busy shining in their own light. By shifting the spotlight back to you, you stop chasing validation and start generating it from within. You move from being an option in someone else's world to becoming the main event in your own. There's a kind of power that comes when you stop reacting to every move someone makes. Indifference isn't coldness, and it isn't bitterness. It's control. It's the ability to stay calm when once you would have panicked, to stay grounded when once you would have chased. That calmness is magnetic because it signals that you no longer hinge your emotions on what someone else does or doesn't do. When you embody indifference, you create a sense of mystery. Suddenly, you're not predictable anymore. They can't read your every thought, they can't rely on your constant response, and they can't use your emotions to measure their own importance. That lack of certainty pulls them in because people are wired to crave what they can't fully grasp. Indifference shifts the power dynamic. The one who cares less always holds more influence. But true indifference doesn't come from pretending, it comes from genuinely investing your attention elsewhere. The moment you stop chasing reassurance and start living from a place of abundance, you change the entire equation. You're no longer waiting for their approval. You're too busy approving of yourself. The beauty of indifference is that it speaks without words. It says, "I'm fine whether you're here or not." That energy is irresistible because it's rare. Most people are desperate to prove their value. Very few have the composure to sit in silence, unbothered, radiating self-assurance. That's why indifference doesn't push people away. It pulls them closer. The magnetic pull of indifference works because it's the opposite of neediness. It turns the tables, making them question where they stand with you, making them lean in just to get a glimpse of what's happening in your world. That curiosity, that desire to matter again, grows stronger the moment you stop trying to convince them that they do. Attraction has always been less about what you say and more about the energy you carry. When you put yourself first, you communicate, without words, that you are someone who knows their own value. You stop trying to prove it, and instead, you live it. That quiet confidence is magnetic because it signals that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else stepping up. Self-priority is not selfishness. It's alignment. It's the decision to honor your needs, your growth, and your peace above anything that threatens to diminish them. When you live from that place, you naturally set a standard for how others treat you. People recognize that they can't come into your world half-heartedly because you've shown them that your time and energy are not things to be wasted. Every time you invest in yourself, whether it's your health, your passions, your career, or your inner peace, you add another layer of depth to your presence. That growth is attractive because it creates momentum, and momentum is irresistible. People can feel when you're moving forward, and they either rise to match your energy or they get left behind. When you stop placing someone else's needs above your own, you also break the cycle of overgiving. Instead of pouring endlessly into others, you refill your own cup first. That simple shift makes your presence more powerful because you're no longer depleted. You're abundant, and abundance has a way of drawing others in because it feels safe, inspiring, and rare. Self-priority also creates boundaries, and boundaries create respect. When you know where your lines are, people quickly learn that if they want access to you, they need to approach with intention. That respect is attractive because it makes them see you as someone worth showing up for. You're not just available, you're valuable. The ultimate paradox is this: the more you prioritize yourself, the more others will want to prioritize you. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy naturally commands it. You become the standard, and in doing so, you shift from chasing attention to effortlessly receiving it. Human nature craves what feels rare. When emotions are constantly available, endless reassurance, constant check-ins, immediate forgiveness, they lose their impact. Emotional scarcity isn't about withholding love. It's about ensuring your emotions are given with intention, not obligation. When your attention and affection are rare, they become more valuable, and people begin to lean in for the very thing they once overlooked. Mastering emotional scarcity means understanding the balance between giving and protecting. It's not about playing games, it's about refusing to let someone consume your energy without earning it. When you stop over-delivering emotionally, you disrupt the pattern of taking you for granted. That disruption is what makes them realize just how powerful your presence truly is. There is strength in restraint. By not offering your emotions so freely, you communicate that your love, your time, and your care are precious. It shows that you don't operate from desperation, but from choice. That choice elevates your worth in the eyes of others, because it signals that access to your heart isn't guaranteed. It must be respected. The art of emotional scarcity also teaches patience. Instead of rushing to fix every problem, to comfort every doubt, or to smooth over every mistake, you let the silence do the work. That silence forces others to sit with the discomfort of losing your emotional availability, and in that discomfort, they begin to reflect on the value you brought to their life. Emotional scarcity doesn't close you off. It refines who gets access. Not everyone deserves your deepest care, and when you start being selective, you naturally attract those who are capable of appreciating it. You stop wasting energy on people who drain you and start magnetizing those who see your emotions as the gift they truly are. When your emotions are no longer infinite on demand, they become an experience others strive to earn. That's the power of scarcity. It turns what was once taken for granted into something deeply sought after, making your presence impossible to ignore.